Evan's voice barely carries across the hallway when he says it. "Can I help you with that?" It's not a confrontation. It's not accusation. It's instinct, the kind that comes from years of shared routines, lifting bags together, dividing weight, being a team. But the air shifts instantly. Lena's hand pauses mid-zip, fingers tightening around the metal pull as if it suddenly burns. The humming stops. Silence expands, heavy and alert, like something just woke up. Evan notices how her shoulders stiffen, not dramatically, but enough to feel intentional. It's the kind of pause that betrays thought. Calculation. For the first time that morning, she doesn't answer immediately. Evan realizes then that his question wasn't heard as kindness. It was heard as interference, as if he had reached too close to something that no longer belongs to him. And in that pause, Evan feels it, the invisible boundary between them, sharper than any argument they've ever had. Lena finally turns her head, not fully, just enough for Evan to see her expression. It's polite, controlled, almost gentle. But it's wrong. There's no warmth in it, no shared understanding, no reflexive intimacy that once lived there. Her eyes flick to him the way someone looks at a stranger who's crossed a line without realizing it. Evan feels something collapse inside his chest, quietly, without noise. She smiles, but the smile doesn't reach her eyes. It's a practiced expression, one he's seen her use with coworkers, with neighbors, with people she doesn't owe truth to. "I've got it," she says lightly, already turning back to the suitcase. The zipper closes with a final, definitive sound. Evan realizes he's no longer part of the process. Not the packing. Not the trip. Maybe not even the lie. He wonders when that happened, when helping became unwelcome, when presence became intrusion. Lena snaps the suitcase shut and rolls it upright. Evan's gaze drops to it, not out of suspicion, but fear. It's absurd, he knows. It's just luggage. Fabric and wheels. But standing there, he feels like that suitcase contains more than clothes. It carries distance. Secrets. A version of his wife that doesn't include him. His mind flashes, uninvited, to the past, to another suitcase, years ago, tossed open on a bed while Lena laughed barefoot, sunlight spilling in as they packed together for their honeymoon. That memory feels foreign now, like it belongs to someone else's life. Lena grips the handle, already moving toward the door. "You don't have to wait up for me," she'd said earlier. Casual, harmless words that now echo with finality. Evan stays still. He doesn't follow. He doesn't ask questions. Because somewhere deep inside, he understands. Whatever is in that suitcase, once it leaves the house, nothing will come back the same. Evan Hale was not always this quiet. In his 20s, he was the kind of architect who stayed up all night sketching skylines that didn't exist yet, who believed buildings could change how people felt inside them. Somewhere along the way, that ambition was sanded down, not by failure, but by accommodation. By choosing peace over honesty. By believing that love meant endurance, not expression. Evan learned to soften his needs because Lena's emotions always seemed louder, heavier, more urgent. He became loyal in the way that costs you something, absorbing disappointment, explaining away absence, convincing himself that stability was the same as happiness. Confrontation made him uncomfortable, not because he feared anger, but because he feared being unnecessary. So he adapted. He made himself smaller. In the marriage, Evan is dependable, predictable, and invisible, still giving everything, still believing that if he holds on long enough, love will eventually return the favor. Lena Hale looks fulfilled from the outside. Her social media tells a careful story, smiles, filtered light, captions about gratitude and growth. But inside the marriage, she is distant, almost absent, as if she's already halfway gone. Evan's steadiness, once comforting, now feels suffocating to her. She craves validation that arrives fast and loud, not the slow, dependable kind Evan offers. Instead of voicing dissatisfaction, Lena internalizes it, letting resentment ferment into entitlement. She tells herself she deserves more excitement, more attention, more proof that she is still wanted. Honest confrontation would require vulnerability, and vulnerability would mean admitting fault. Escape is easier. The marriage doesn't explode. It erodes. Lena reframes her emotional withdrawal as independence, her secrecy as privacy. In her mind, she isn't betraying Evan, she's reclaiming herself. And that justification makes everything else feel permissible. Their home is beautiful in the way showrooms are, tasteful, curated, lifeless. Every room reflects success without warmth. Dinner plates are still set for two out of habit. Even on nights Evan eats alone. Silence has replaced intimacy, routine standing in for connection. Evan sleeps lightly now, trained by years of waiting for Lena to come to bed. When she does, her phone is always face down, tucked beneath the pillow like a secret she doesn't want disturbed. There were no explosive fights, no dramatic turning points, just slow neglect, unanswered questions, and emotional coldness disguised as growth. The red flags appear quietly: locked screens, work dinners that stretch too late, affection rationed like a scarce resource. What's truly at stake isn't just Evan's marriage, it's his dignity, his grip on reality, and his belief that loyalty still has meaning in a world that rewards escape over honesty. The tablet lights up on the kitchen counter while Evan is rinsing his coffee mug, a soft chime slicing through the morning quiet. He almost ignores it. The device is shared, used for recipes, calendars, the mundane logistics of a life that's supposed to be mutual. But the screen doesn't go dark. A message preview lingers. Can't wait to finally have you all weekend. Evan doesn't read further. He doesn't need to. The words sit there, clean and unmistakable, written with confidence that assumes secrecy. His hands don't shake. His breath doesn't catch. Instead, something inside him goes still, like a system powering down. The denial he's been nursing for years doesn't crack. It evaporates. This isn't suspicion. It's confirmation delivered without drama. Evan sets the mug down carefully, noticing how normal everything still looks. Sunlight on the counter. The hum of the refrigerator. The world hasn't changed. Only his understanding of it has. Evan sits at the table and waits for the calm to break. It doesn't. There's no surge of anger, no cinematic collapse, just an unsettling clarity. His thoughts narrow, sharpen. He opens Lena's email on the tablet with the same restraint he uses at work when reviewing blueprints. If something is wrong, you don't panic. You verify. The hotel reservation appears within seconds. Same date she mentioned. Same city. 2 guests. The detail lands without impact, as if his mind has already accepted it. Evan studies the confirmation email the way he studies flawed designs, not with emotion, but precision. He feels oddly detached from himself, like he's watching another man uncover the truth. Confrontation crosses his mind, briefly. He imagines her denial, the performance, the way the truth would dissolve into arguments about trust and privacy. The calm tells him something important. If she can lie this easily, he needs to see the lie completed. Evan doesn't close the tablet right away. He lets the information settle, not like a wound, but like a blueprint for what comes next. He understands now that stopping Lena won't give him answers, only chaos. Observation will. If she's willing to risk everything for a weekend, he wants to see how far she'll go when she thinks she's safe. The thought arrives fully formed, steady and undeniable. I won't stop her. He will let her pack. Let her smile. Let her walk out the door believing she's in control. What she doesn't know is that the marriage she returns to will not be the one she left. Evan isn't planning revenge. Not yet. He's planning clarity. Truth, stripped of excuses. As Lena moves through the house later that morning, unaware, Evan watches with new eyes. For the first time, he isn't waiting to be chosen. He's choosing himself, and whatever that costs, he's ready to pay. Silence becomes Evan's battleground. Every instinct in him urges confession, demanding answers, breaking the tension, reclaiming control. But alongside that urge lives something heavier: shame. Shame for staying silent, for watching the lie breathe without suffocating it. He fears the truth not because it will hurt, but because it will be final. So he holds still, observing Lena with a clarity that feels almost cruel. He notices the changes immediately. Her affection spikes without reason, unexpected touches, forced laughter, compliments delivered like distractions. Then irritation follows, sharp and unearned, especially when Evan remains calm. His composure unsettles her. It removes the conflict she expects, the fight that would justify her choices. Evan realizes then that he's been editing himself for years, softening words, swallowing reactions, shaping his behavior to preserve peace. Now, for the first time, he stops editing. And in that stillness, the marriage starts to crack under its own weight. The suitcase sits by the front door like an accusation. Evan passes it dozens of times throughout the day, each glance tightening the invisible clock in his chest. It doesn't move, yet it dominates the space, a physical marker of betrayal waiting to happen. Lena circles around it carefully, avoiding his gaze whenever he's near it, over-explaining small things that don't require explanation. Evan eats dinner alone that night, again, scrolling through memories instead of his phone. He replays conversations from years ago, noticing how often he'd chosen silence over honesty. A call comes from his sister, her voice light but curious, asking if everything's okay. Evan lies without hesitation, protecting Lena's image even now. The realization hits harder than the message ever did. He's still shielding her from consequences. Alone in the quiet house, Evan understands how thoroughly isolation has wrapped itself around him, and how long he's mistaken it for loyalty. Morning arrives too quickly. Lena finishes packing with a nervous energy she doesn't acknowledge. When she steps toward Evan, her movements slow, deliberate. The kiss goodbye lasts longer than usual, too long. Her hands linger on his arms as if she's trying to memorize the shape of him, or absolve herself through tenderness. Evan feels it clearly now, the performance. The need to leave without guilt. He doesn't pull away, but he doesn't respond either. His lips remain still, his body uncooperative. The absence of return unsettles her more than anger ever could. She searches his face, just for a second, then forces a smile. "I'll text you," she says. Evan nods. No words. No promise. As the door closes behind her, the sound echoes through the house. Something has ended. Not the marriage yet, but the version of Evan who waited, who hoped. Whatever comes back through that door will meet someone else entirely. The hotel room smells faintly of artificial citrus and fresh linen. Lena drops her purse on the chair, kicks off her shoes, and exhales like someone who's escaped something heavy. She's alone now, no performance required. The confidence returns easily. She wheels the suitcase toward the bed, already distracted by her phone buzzing with anticipation. The zipper opens smoothly. At first, nothing registers as wrong. Then her hands stop. On top of her neatly folded clothes sit stacks of paper, too orderly, too deliberate. She lifts one, confused. Her own words stare back at her. Printed screenshots. Messages she never imagined outside a glowing screen, stripped of flirtation and secrecy, exposed under hotel lighting. Beneath them lies their marriage license, the ink suddenly louder than any accusation. Her breath stutters. The room feels smaller. Lena realizes this isn't discovery. It's preparation. Someone packed this knowing exactly where she'd open it. Her hands tremble as she finds the letter. Evan's handwriting is unmistakable, steady, careful, the way he's always been. She unfolds it slowly, dread crawling up her spine. There's no rage in his words. No insults. No pleading. Just clarity. You packed like someone leaving. So I helped you finish. The sentence lands harder than any scream could. Her knees weaken, and she sits on the edge of the bed, reading the letter again, searching for cruelty that isn't there. Evan doesn't accuse her of betrayal. He doesn't ask why. He simply names what she already knows but never admitted, that she chose escape over honesty. Panic floods in, sharp and unmanageable. Her confidence collapses completely. This isn't a fight she can win, or manipulate, or cry her way through. The power she thought she had evaporates. She understands now. Evan didn't follow her. He let her leave. On his terms, the phone rings. Lena flinches when she sees Evan's name. She answers, breath uneven, words trapped in her throat. Evan's voice is calm, almost gentle. No anger. No satisfaction. "Don't come back," he says quietly, "until you know who you are without me." The line severs something final. Lena slides to the floor, back against the bed, sobs breaking through without restraint. Alone in a room she thought would be freedom, she feels smaller than she ever has. Miles away, Evan sits in his living room as evening light filters through the windows. The house is silent, but it no longer feels hollow. There is sadness, yes, but also relief. He doesn't imagine her pain. He doesn't celebrate it. He simply breathes, steady and unburdened, for the first time in years. The suitcase did its job. It carried the truth where words never could. Evan's life doesn't transform overnight. There's no dramatic reinvention, no sudden confidence. Instead, change arrives in small, deliberate acts. He begins therapy, not to fix what broke, but to understand what he allowed. For the first time, he speaks without filtering himself for someone else's comfort. He returns to his work with a renewed seriousness, pitching designs he once shelved because they felt too bold, too ambitious. He stops apologizing, at meetings, in conversations, in his own head, for taking up space. The habit is hard to break. Some days he catches himself shrinking again, defaulting to silence. But now he notices it. And noticing becomes power. Evan learns that endurance without honesty isn't love, it's self-erasure. As weeks pass, the quiet in his home changes texture. It no longer feels like absence. It feels like room. Room to breathe, to grow, to become someone who doesn't need permission to exist fully. The affair dissolves faster than Lena expected. The man who promised escape grows distant once secrecy is replaced by complication. Without the thrill of hiding, there's nothing left to sustain the connection. Her public image fractures quietly, friends ask careful questions, invitations thin out, sympathy arrives mixed with judgment. Alone, Lena is forced to sit with the emptiness she avoided for years. There's no one to perform for now. No filtered version of herself to hide behind. The freedom she chased feels hollow, undefined. She replays Evan's calm words, realizing how little cruelty there was in them, and how much truth. For the first time, she confronts the cost of choosing escape over honesty. Not punishment. Consequence. The hardest part isn't losing Evan. It's understanding that she abandoned herself long before she left him. And no one else is coming to fill that space. The divorce is handled without spectacle. No courtroom drama, no public accusations. Just paperwork, boundaries, and the quiet acknowledgement that something ended because it was no longer honest. Evan doesn't seek revenge. He doesn't need to. He's learned that strength isn't silence, and peace isn't compliance. During the final meeting, he speaks clearly, about needs, about limits, about who he is now. And that clarity feels like victory. Walking out, Evan understands something he never did before. Love requires truth, and truth requires voice. He doesn't confuse calm with passivity anymore. He doesn't equate loyalty with self-sacrifice. As he steps into his future, career revived, identity reclaimed, there is sadness, but it no longer defines him. The story doesn't end with triumph over Lena. It ends with Evan choosing himself, not in anger, but in honesty. And that choice changes everything. Months later, the season has changed without ceremony. The house looks the same, but it feels different, lighter, less watchful. Evan carries an old suitcase out to his car, the one that once held more than clothes. Its fabric is worn, corners softened by years of use and memory. At the donation center, he hesitates before setting it down. Not out of pain, but recognition. This object once represented fear, waiting, and a truth he wasn't ready to face. Now it feels neutral, emptied of meaning. Evan notices how steady his hands are, how unburdened his breath feels. There's no rush to leave, no urge to look back. He stands there a moment longer than necessary, letting the quiet settle. Healing didn't arrive with fireworks. It came slowly, through understanding, through choosing honesty over endurance. The suitcase is no longer a symbol of loss. It's proof that he moved forward. As Evan turns away, something catches his attention. Nothing specific, just the stillness of the moment. He pauses, hand resting on the car door, and a faint smile crosses his face. Not happiness exactly. Recognition. The kind that comes when you realize you're no longer surviving something. You've passed through it. He thinks about the man he was, apologetic, quiet, waiting for permission to be loved properly. That version feels distant now, not shameful, just unfinished. Evan doesn't feel bitterness toward Lena anymore. The anger has burned out, leaving clarity behind. He understands now that strength isn't measured by how much pain you can absorb, but by how honestly you live afterward. The world around him moves on, cars pass, people talk, life continues, but Evan stands still, grounded. The pause isn't hesitation. It's gratitude. For the lesson. For the peace. For himself. Driving away, Evan's thoughts drift, not to the past, but to the quiet present he's built. There's no dramatic music in his head, no grand declaration. Just a simple truth, clear and inarguable. I didn't lose my wife, he thinks. I found myself. The words don't feel rehearsed. They feel earned. He exhales slowly, eyes on the road ahead, comfortable with uncertainty for the first time. The story doesn't end with closure neatly tied in a bow. It ends with forward motion. With a man who knows who he is, and what he won't abandon again. The camera would linger here, letting the silence speak. No more explanations. No more waiting. Just Evan, moving into a life defined by honesty rather than endurance. Fade out, Not because the story is over, but because it no longer needs to be watched.